I'm going to show you two ways to make a budget. The first way is going to save you a couple $100, while the second way will save you thousands of dollars per year. Budgeting has helped my wife and I pay off tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and we're probably debt free in 2025 thanks to our combined efforts. And while I agree that you can't budget your way out of poverty, you can definitely create the map that gets you out of there through budgeting. So let's get started with the simple budget, and then we'll move on to the more intricate one. With the simple budget, I already filled out what my actual budget would be for my household, and we're gonna go through and figure out what these averages are together. For housing, the average American spends around $1,748 per month on rent. However, the cost of rent varies greatly by location, size, and quality of the rental property. For example, the average rent in Hawaii is $1,868 per month, while the average rent in West Virginia is $831 per month. So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna take the average, we're gonna round it up. I want to make this budget as accurate as possible while leaning towards the higher ends because I don't want you guys thinking I'm biased and I'm trying to force a specific point. So for housing, we're gonna put 1,800, which is like almost $1,000 more than I'm paying for my mortgage. I'm from New York City, where rent is really expensive. And I, myself, as an adult, decided to move out of New York City into a cheaper place. So don't pass this off as me living in South Carolina, where cost of living is cheaper and you can't do that. You can. You just have to be willing to make certain sacrifices to make it happen. You could even live in expensive places and make sacrifices and live in not the greatest of homes or in someone's room. There are things that you can do to temporarily give you some margin in your expenses. So don't write this off as, oh, he's in a cheaper area, I could never do that. You can't. All right, so going back to this, we're now on car payments. So both my wife and I both had car payments. We estimated about $500 together in car payments, but because we have been on track paying off our debts, we don't have any car payments. We have two cars completely paid off. If you walk into a car dealership right now, as of Q3 2024, the average monthly car payment for a new vehicle is $737, while the average for a used car is $520. I think cars are one of the biggest things that are keeping the average American back from having the financial freedom they want. Even myself, I got trapped in this too. I would walk into a car dealership with a car that had an issue that I couldn't afford to fix, and it was only like $700. And then they would talk me into a car payment for $500. And in my brain, I'm like, yeah, that's cheaper to get a whole new used car because the monthly payment was cheaper than fixing the car. I hate walking into dealerships now. I hate walking into certain mechanics because if their mechanic is attached to a dealership, they're going to try their best to get you out of your car and into a car that makes them money. I really want to encourage everyone to try your best that when you go out and buy a car, buy one in cash. I got into an accident earlier this year, and because we're being so diligent about our finances, I was able to pay cash for my next car without even waiting for the insurance reimbursement, which eventually came. If your car was paid off, you would instantly receive that much in cash flow. If you have a $737 car payment and you pay that car off, or even if you sell it and then buy something for cash, you would have now given yourself a $727 raise. We're gonna put $737, but I also want to tell you guys, do not buy a brand new car unless you are a millionaire and unless you're paying in cash. We're not there. New cars aren't for us. We go and buy used cars. Even I bought a used car, and when something happens to my car again, I will continue buying a used car. I won't buy a brand new car unless I'm so rich. The money I took to buy a new car, I could set it on fire and not feel a difference. That's the only time you should go and buy a new car. We're going to use the 737 because, like I said earlier, we want to show the upper limits when we're doing this budget for the average person. So for health insurance, I pay $30, and that's not like going to be a good comparison. Because of my job, my income looks a lot lower than it actually is legally. And my health insurance, thanks to the Affordable Care Act, is based off of the income I pay taxes on. I don't have to pay taxes on a lot of my income because of the mileage write-off, for those of you who are familiar with it. And for those of you who aren't, essentially, I get to take about 60 cents off for every dollar I make for every mile I drive. And that's just because I'm a rideshare driver, which gives me cheaper health insurance. But let's see what the average person in America would end up paying for insurance. So according to the most recent data, the average monthly cost of health insurance after the Affordable Care Act is around $477 for an individual plan, with costs varying based on age, location, and plan type, with many people qualifying for premium tax credits, which is what I have. I got premium tax credits because of my income. to lower their monthly premium. So if you're in the boat of people who think I'm too poor to afford health insurance, you definitely need to go and check and see how much you qualify for it in saving. Please check. It's really important. I'm glad I did it like 2 years ago, and I've done it every year since. And it saved my life, honestly. It's how I found out I had diabetes, and it's how I beat diabetes. So don't assume you can't qualify for this. You need to go and check and verify whether you can or can't. All right, so for health insurance, we're gonna put 474. Now for groceries, this is where it gets pretty interesting. We budget 275 a month, and sometimes we'll go over and sometimes we'll go under. Sometimes we're not paying enough attention, or sometimes we just don't think too much about it. But for groceries, it's just the two of us. We budget 275. We go to Costco, we get what we think makes sense in bulk, and then we do, regular groceries for the rest of them. But here's an interesting article about Americans and their grocery spending habits. And if we don't want to blow the budget every month by eating out, we've got to shop for our groceries and make our meals at home. Your average millionaire does not have their own live-in chef. This can only mean that they too go to the grocery store, meal plan, and even save money with coupons. Yep, millionaires clip coupons. Did you know that the average millionaire lives in a area where the average income is $70,000? The average millionaire isn't as far-fetched as you think they are. Says, look, we all need to eat to survive, and if we don't want to blow the budget every month by eating out, we've got to shop for our groceries and make meals at home. So in the national study of millionaires, we found that more than 1/3 of millionaires surveyed spend less than $300 each month on groceries. Almost 2/3 spend less than $450, and less than 1 in 5 millionaires spend more than $600 on groceries. So if you're spending more than $600 on groceries per month, you are spending more money than millionaires spend on groceries. It says non-millionaires spend 57% more on groceries than millionaires do. So a millionaire will spend $412 on average per month, while a non-millionaire will spend $647. And that's a lot. That is like 4 times what I spend on groceries. And even if it was 4 times 2 is 8, I had a family of 8, that you could feed 8 people with that. I think that's pretty insane. I think people aren't doing their diligence. I think that because people don't have a budget, they're never looking through what they're spending when they go to the grocery store. They're never thinking about what they should cut when they go to the grocery store. They're just going to the grocery store, getting the things that they like, and not caring about the financial impacts that they might have over time. If you're going to the grocery store and you've never done a budget, how do you know how much money you should be spending at the grocery store? You can't. So even though it feels wrong to do this, I'm going to put the $680 whatever dollars it was for the average for groceries. But truth be told, it should be lower than this. You should not be spending that much on groceries unless you have a family of 6, 7, 8 people that you're trying to feed, or unless you are debt free. You're in such a great financial position that you can afford to spend more on groceries, and then that's okay. But if you're struggling, if you have debt, if you don't own a home yet and you want to, if your decision making is constricted because you don't have the finances to do something, you should not be spending that much on groceries. Now we get to eating out. We budget $0 for eating out, but here's the truth. We fail at this pretty much every month. And again, with the harder budget, we're going to actually go through our previous month's transactions, and you're going to see what we actually spend versus what we budgeted. But the goal is we shouldn't be eating out. Let's see how much the average American eats out. It says on average, Americans spend $3,365 per year on eating out. That's more than $280 per month. The average millionaire spends $267 per month eating out, which is interesting to see that your average millionaire spends less money, barely less money than the average non-millionaire eating out. So we're gonna put 280, which I think is, that's not terrible. If you're okay, it's a budget line that you can absolutely cut if you need to save money somewhere. Eating in will always be cheaper than eating out. Next is the average spend on things like utilities is around $400. This is things like electricity, natural gas, water, trash, internet, sometimes cable TV, and we're gonna put $400. That also includes your phone bill. We spend about $200. We have really cheap phone plans. My wife, she has the Mint. I had the Mint, but then I started bundling things with AT&T with the internet. It worked out to be a little cheaper and a little better, and I needed better service as a rideshare driver. So we do really good on utilities. In some places you live, it might be cold. Your utilities might jump up. All right, so for car insurance, we pay about $225 for 2 cars. That's pretty good, I think. We routinely shop around for different car prices. But let's see what the average American is spending on cars. So it says the monthly cost of car insurance for drivers in the US is $205 for full coverage and $56 for minimum coverage. That's just for one car. We're very lucky. We were Progressive and they tried to jump us to $500 for the 2 cars. And then we shop around. Every time our policy is up, we shop around. We have an insurance broker that gets the best prices for us. And he got us a really, really good price for drivers that do not have a bad history. And if for miscellaneous, I like to have a miscellaneous budget line item just because it helps give you some buoyancy, when things that you don't expect to happen happen. Otherwise, if you just budget for what you expect to happen, you're never gonna like really fit into your budget. So with this simple budget, which I'm gonna give everyone access to, for my income, I put $5,200, and I did not put my wife's income in here. And I make a commitment to contribute $1,200 per week into the joint account from my business account. I'll do more. Usually, what's left over after that is gonna go towards debt or go towards my business emergency fund or go towards like planned maintenance that I might have for my car and things of that nature. The average American take home pay in America, I'm not making this up, is $4,800 after taxes. Right here it is. As of December 11, 2024, the average annual pay for an after tax in the United States is $58,389. We're just gonna call that $4,800 per month. And if you're making less than that, that's okay. It really is. A budget will show you where you need to cut or how much more money you need to make. And that's a very important part of the pie. So when we add up all the averages, the base spending is $4,686, and we subtract that from the $4,800 you made after taxes, you're left with the measly $414 after all of that's said and done. The reason why that sucks is because anything that happens that's over $114, you're probably going to start resorting to those credit cards. You're going to have to start borrowing money. You're going to have to start asking for favors from family and friends, and that can strain your relationships with those people. So my recommendation would be to figure out a way to make cuts that you can give yourself some margin here. And then with that margin, you need to start paying off your debts. One of the biggest ones, if we were able to just knock out this car payment, pay it off, now we have $861 in margin. So that's just the simplified version. What I like about the simplified version is that it quickly shows you, do you need to make more money? Do you need to cut your spending? Or do you need to do both? And a lot of people just don't know. And the only way you can know is by making a budget. So you'll have access to this, but I want to show you the more intricate budget that really exposes everyone. And you're going to see me expose myself in 4K. I go off the rails with the budget. So I call this my deep budget. This is where I go through all of my transactions and I can see what I spent versus what I planned to spend. So this is actually for November. I made this video in December of 2024 and I went through and I put in all of my transactions. Now, the reason why this is the harder way to do it is because it takes more time. And really, it's just time. So if you have the time to do it, this is what I would truly recommend, because then you can categorize everything. And then as we slide over here, we can see our totals, right? We can see our totals by category. The mortgage, $975. We spent $488 eating out. Now, part of this is in our true budget, we have allowances of $100 each where we can do, I think we bumped it up to $125 maybe, whatever it is. We have allowances for what we can spend without having to consult each other or the budget. It's kind of like the flex money. And of course, once we're debt free, this will increase. But because I spend a lot of time on the road, most of my flex money is towards eating out. And some of my wife's flex money too is towards eating out. I would say the bulk of it is, both of ours is towards eating out. And then on top of that, it was Thanksgiving. When we made our budget, we forgot to consider the fact that we'll be traveling a lot. And because we are traveling, we are more likely to eat out. We didn't do a good job of thinking about that with our budget, and that's okay. When you have your budget, sometimes you're gonna fail, sometimes you're gonna do great. But when you fail, you need to learn from that experience so that now we're in December, if we're having to go places to visit people, which we're gonna go to Vegas to visit my dad, then now we know, hey, for this month, we really need to budget for this because we didn't do it last month, and that's what caused us to go over. A budget just helps you have conversations and be aware of where you're failing and where you could improve. It's not to beat yourself up over with, and the one time you fail, you're never going to do it again. That's not what it's for. You can see even our groceries is pretty high for the same reason. Even though we went somewhere for Thanksgiving, we still bought food to cook for the people we were with. So that's another part of the equation. Our bills, $271. That's pretty much just our electricity and a phone and water and all that. So it's within range. Our insurance is exactly where it should be, and so on, right? Gas is a little higher than we normally spend, but that's because we drove places. Our subscriptions are where they're at. I'm allowed a subscription. I like to watch anime, so I pick Crunchyroll. My wife, she has a subscription, don't remember which one it is. And then we also share a music subscription. So because we have those categories, we know our income is over here, $6,100. We spent $2,920 and we have $3,179 left. Now, we do have our emergency fund that's separate. That's already set in stone. All the dollars that we earn beyond our budget is going to our student loans. And this is why we're like almost debt free. This is why we will be debt free by 2025, because we're trying to spend as little as possible. We don't always succeed, and we're taking what's left over to pay off our debts. And as we paid off our debts, it's given us more and more margin. It's hard work, but I strongly believe it can be done in 2, 3, 4 years. 4 years is the max. I really want to challenge you guys to do it in 2 years. I believe you guys can do this. More than my belief that you guys can do this, you have to, because the alternative is being poor for the rest of your life. And I'm not here to support that. All right. So now that I've gone through that, I'm able to put my budget up side by side here with my spending categories. So mortgage isn't going to change, but I'm saying, all right, we can get back our eating out down to $250. Yes, we shouldn't be eating out, but because we are going to Vegas, we know we're going to be eating out while we're on the airplanes, while we're in Vegas. So we're going to try to keep it to $250 instead. And then it shows me how much money I will save if I adhere to this plan. So that's why I really like the intricate budget, the harder version of the budget, because it makes you reflect on what you actually spent on real numbers. And then you can input some theory of how you want to fix that and how much money you're going to save as a result. I can't stress the importance of budgeting enough. I know some people think you can't budget your way out of poverty, and I agree with them. A budget is the roadmap that starts your journey for fixing your finances. I'm going to make sure you guys have access to these things, but it really comes down to you. And if you don't have the time to do this and you want to pay me some money to do it on your behalf, that's fine too. Reach out to me. We can talk about a price. And I guarantee you, whatever the price I give, I'm going to find it in your budget and save you that amount of money. And if I can't, I won't even charge you for it. I just want you guys to be intimately involved in your finances.